Hello everyone, I hope that you are doing fine. Today I'm here to talk a bit about the narrow line between compassion or awareness and judgment, especially when it comes to relationships. This balance and understanding the borderline between these two, judgment and compassion, in relationships, and knowing which one to rely on more in certain situations is an essential skill for a successful and high quality relationship. I believe that everyone has to deal with an emotional seesaw or a spectrum where compassion lies on the one side and judgment on the other. Our skill and capacity to find a balance point between these two poles reflect ability to handle interpersonal communication, especially close relationships. It means that we need both. Both poles are necessary to use and be aware of. Imagine being only judgmental or critical toward the other person or toward yourself, or generally negative toward everything in life. What will happen then? You might become a person who are stuck in inner critic and bitterness and negativity with little or no connection with empathy and compassion for other people or yourself. This is destructive, right? Then we may disconnect from our true selves, our inner world, and also our surroundings and people, and get stuck in a negative spiral of negativity and judgment. So too much of judgment is about disconnection, interruption, and division. So excessive judgment divides human beings from each other and steals the freedom and opportunity to connect and raise understanding and reconciliation and empathy. So representation of heavy focus on judgment in relationship is a tendency to bitterness, anger, and accumulated resentment and frustration, which we know as killer of love and passion and emotional intimacy over time, while a proper portion of it can be constructive, because without judgment and evaluation, we cannot be able to identify what is good or what is bad for us, and then it means that we lose our compass and common sense and the power for decision making. On the other hand, if we mostly use compassion and a very mild and trivializing approach toward people's mistakes and generally every important aspect of every life situation, we will have also a problem, because we will again lose our access to our wisdom compass, right? And tend to over-focus on pleasing and comforting tendency. We will become, people pleaser and too nice persons who are too good in saving other people while we forget ourselves, our needs totally. It actually reduces the individuality and increases the potential for codependency and pathological low profile relationship where there is no personal freedom and firm personal position of values and authenticity for ourselves. So it is like living through others' existence and identity by giving and sacrificing and being too compassionate, even if there is lots of red flags and signs telling us that there is something off here. For example, in this relationship and this in the very relationship that we have, or the other relationship that we had been already through, right? And this mechanism continues to function without us being aware of that. And then we suddenly find ourselves, full of resentment and frustration, and we get sick and frustrated and full of unpleasant feelings which are suppressed, and this leads us to collapse and depression and sadness and powerlessness, and perhaps separation and falling apart will be the last solution for us. Therefore, in order to function in a relationship, we have to find the balance between these two. Otherwise, we cannot build on trust and empathy. And because either we are stuck in seeing flaws and shortcomings exclusively, or if we are so easygoing and oriented toward the other person's needs, and we are, interested all the time in acting compassionately, we will also fail, paying attention to the mistakes and areas that should be repaired and reconstructed, right? So therefore, we need a balance point. I remember that one of my clients who had a great relationship with her husband in the first 2 years of their marriage said that she had been starting to wonder often if her expectation was too high in certain situations in relation to her husband, or was it her fault making her husband frustrated or angry? Could she behave in a kinder or more appropriate way that she did? Was she missing, out something important about her husband's thoughts or feelings and experiences? And lots of such questions. It was like that she felt an urge and inner press to repeatedly turn inward after conversation and encounter and check out if she was right or was good enough in relation to her husband. So at some level, it sounds great because it can be a sign of self-awareness and attention, but it is in fact a self-manipulation method, because although such an approach by, excessive checking out and evaluation of own thoughts was a byproduct of awareness, but it was also an unhealthy way of using too much of a good thing and making it into self-gaslighting and self-sabotage. So for me, it was like she just automatically jumps into evaluations and forgets the context of that very situation. It means that she unconsciously misused self-awareness and her own mind energy by ignoring the nuances and reality of situations with all its dimensions. She could get, easily manipulated because she was constantly manipulating herself without knowing that. Instead of asking, critical, important questions like, okay, what is happening here? What kind of, response or behavior my husband has about this situation? Is that okay or acceptable or not? She was all the time, busy checking out her own perceptions and thoughts instead. So my experience says that these people usually tend to ignore red flags or available indications of danger and not being safe in their relationship, such as what we can see in people pleasers or those with, submissive, anxious attachment style, or those who have a low sense of self-worth. Actually, my client was referred for her anxiety problems, could have headaches and an ambiguous feeling of dizziness and confusion after arguments with her husband. As well, she constantly, felt an unpleasant burden-like pressure on her chest. So her body was also very tired. My impression already from the first session was that her anxiety symptoms are reactive responses to some toxic dynamics in her relationship with her husband. And her further elaborations and explanations, about her problems and with concrete examples indicated that she could not recognize, the manipulation tactics hidden behind supporting or nice words by her husband, by her own. For example, her husband could impose economic restrictions on her by, limiting her access to her own salary account, while he argued that he did that because he cares, about her, but he wants their economy to work well. Or that sometimes he could use a lot of affirmative, phrases, affirmations and positive supporting words toward her, but there were no actions afterwards. There were only some empty words which could barely induce trust and intimacy and safety in their relationship. And this is actually an underreported survival trauma response, especially for those who are or previously were in destructive relationship, like narcissistic relationship or those with Stockholm syndrome. When she could sort out things better and started understanding the roots of the problem, it became much easier for her to manage these unpleasant symptoms, anxiety symptoms, because she gradually learned to stop overusing her instinct and awareness resources and gaslight herself instead of questioning his behaviors and asking critical questions. But of course that was not an easy and straightforward process and took its time. So you see that this is a conditioned learning or a trauma response. Once back in a time your boundaries and rights were violated, but perhaps since you were scared and did not dare to stand up for yourself and express your emotions about that situations, your feelings of fear and anger, perhaps you just suppressed these feelings and your subjective experiences, and then learned instead to try your best to maintain a calm and pleasant environment, even if it goes against your values and your natural bodily emotional needs. Then that strategy is actually fear-based, but you go inward and attack yourself and project that frustration which should be targeted towards someone else than yourself, and internalize it every time you are in a similar situation, when you are blamed for things, or you sense that there is something off in the relationship, and then you even start having empathy toward that person as well. So it is at some point destructive at two layers. You suppress your feelings and blame yourself at one level, and also that you learn to have empathy for your abuser at the other level. So I assume that the first step for change is to pause, is about pausing before feeling guilt and empathy for the other person, and to just reflect what is happening here before acting. This question can be actually the triggering turning point in your process, right, in order to channel your awareness through a new path and make a fair balance in mental energy use, and start paying attention to the other person's answer or reaction. Does it stop? Does it tend to continue? Or what kind of reaction you get if you stop questioning or blaming yourself? What's happening there? So I think that we have to be honest with ourselves. So if you stop doing this, will be any reaction of criticism or negativity toward you, which can be scary or too unpleasant for you, that will come from the other person? If yes, then this is a proof that you are in a right path for challenging yourself. Just go ahead and pay attention to your reaction pattern and seek also professional help if you feel you need to. I hope that these reflections make sense for you. Thanks for watching this, and please share this video with other people and keep in touch. Take care. We'll connect again soon. Thank you. Bye.